I don't do much wood carving that requires a stand, but when I saw this DIY jig by Barry Price of the Lancaster Woodturners, I knew I just had to make one to share it with you. I already had most of the hardware on hand, as well as a nice big chunk of dried white ash. This jig is somewhat similar to one that Trent Bosch sells, which is more sophisticated, made out of metal, and is obviously a much nicer piece of kit than the one I'm going to show you, made out of wood. But for some of us, it's hard to justify the expense if we're on a budget, and it's for something that we're not going to use that often. So sometimes we can get by for less. As I mentioned, I already had the hardware to mount the chuck, 3/4 by 10 bolt with a spindle adapter that I bought for a threading jig that frankly didn't work real well, and with a spindle adapter so I can go from a 1" to a 1 1/4. I already had this nice piece of white ash. Barry used white oak, which might be better, but the white ash I think will be just fine. I think maybe most any hardwood, very hard wood, such as maybe even a hard maple, might work just fine. The only parts I had to get was a hose clamp and a bolt. Barry used a 3/4 inch bolt. I'm going to use a 1/2 inch bolt. When I looked at the prices of some of this bolt hardware, I got sticker shock because obviously the inflation has run the prices up over what it was a few years ago. In Barry's design, he used a 1" piece of threaded rod or a bolt. I understand you can get those from various fastener stores or even Tractor Supply, but I already had this 3/4 inch in the adapter, so I'm going to go ahead and use this. I'm just going to cut this off with a angle grinder. Okay, the first thing we're going to turn is the what I'm going to call the chuck mount or the body. It's shown here in I'm using Barry's pictures to illustrate where we're going with this. 3 inches on one side, 2 5/8 on the part that's going to be drilled to hold the chuck insert. We're going to turn a pommel cut on this side and then leave this square. Then we're going to come back here on hold this to drill a hole on the end. Then we're going to come back and cut out this waist in the middle and shape the round end. So let's go ahead and turn this round first. Okay, that's probably close enough. Now let's go ahead and turn this round. I'm going to use a 1/2 inch spindle gouge. Just come into here side, almost as if I was using a spindle rough and gouge. Now I'm going to cut a little bit of a slot on the end that will to fit the hose clamp in, so I'm just going to mark that right there. Then I'm going to take a beading and parting tool, part down there. Just a little bit. And I'm going to trim up this side a little bit, so I'm going to face it off. That'll be good enough because it's going to have a hole drilled in it. Okay. So now we're going to cut out this. We're going to go to the drill press and drill a hole here. All right. With this mounted on the drill press table, clamped down very securely, I'm going to drill a 1 1/2 inch hole, 2 inches deep. Now we're going to drill a through hole here appropriate for the size bolt you're using, in my case a 1/2 inch. thing remains now is gluing up this bolt, so I'm going to mix up some epoxy. Twist it in, tap it down. Make sure it's this carving stand came in handy when I recently did this wavy rim bud vase. If you're interested in making one of these, I did create a handout and put it on my website. The link is in the show notes. And y'all remember, y'all stay safe. Come on back here.